Hi everyone. This is Aaron Waddell, your ancestrally aligned health coach, and today we're doing a little bit something different. I'm trying to interview this week, and this week I've got Scott Myslinski. Scott's the host of the Carnivore Cast podcast. It's a podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, and he's amazingly enough got 2.5 million downloads of his podcast and over 200 episodes. So Scott, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing
Yeah, of
today?
course. My pleasure. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me. Doing
Of
good
course.
and excited to talk to you today.
Perfect. Yeah, so Scott, I wanted to just start off, just get to know you a little bit better. So I saw you that you said you moved right from Boston. You were living there, and now you're in New
Yeah,
York City. How's that going for you?
it's a little bit crazy. It's a lot of people, especially post-pandemic. It feels like there's more people here than ever. And my wife and I live in the highest per capita zip code in the US, which is like 115 plus thousand people per square mile. So lots of people,
Yeah.
lots of cars, lots of ambulances, all the time. But it has its perks. We're close to Central Park. There's a lot of friends and family here. But we'll probably move to someplace a little bit slower, like Brooklyn.
I'll love to hear it. Cool. And so let's just talk about your podcast. Like you said, 2.5 million downloads. That's awesome.
Thank you.
How did that all start? How did you get the idea to start it? And what brought it about?
Yeah, so I've always been an avid listener of podcasts dating back to even, gosh, probably 2014, 2015. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of keto podcasts that were having carnivores on. I was about 8 months, 9 months into my carnivore journey myself. This would have been August of 2017, I believe, because I started carnivore in October, November of 2016. And I just was listening to a lot of experts like Dr. Sean Baker, Amber O'Hearn, and others on keto podcasts, Two Keto Dudes, the Keto Answers podcast, Dr. Anthony Gustin, others. And I, really enjoyed it. My girlfriend at the time, was always saying, why don't you start a podcast? Why don't you do one? And I was like, no, everyone I'd want to interview is on other shows. And she kept encouraging me. And, I had a friend who had a very successful podcast in the fitness space. And, I just asked him, like, what's the absolute minimum I would need to do to put out like 3 episodes? Like, I don't want to market it at all. I don't want to do any editing. Like, this isn't going to be NPR style editing. If you've ever listened to any of their podcasts, it's just going to be long form interview. Like, what's the minimum to get 3 episodes out the door? And he told me, and he gave me, he set me up and helped me. And so I just interviewed 3 people. I reached out to some people I knew in the space. William Schufelt was one of them.
Oh yeah.
Doug, and Travis Statham. And
Travis, yeah.
I interviewed the 3 of them, and put out the episodes, and it had a great reception, and I was having fun. So I just kept reaching out to people and kept putting out 1 podcast a week. That was my goal, 1 a week.
Mhm.
And I got a little bit better at it, got a better mic.
Yeah.
But the concept of the podcast and the bones of the podcast has stayed the same. It's me talking to 1 guest, sometimes 2, but usually 1 guest, and letting them talk most of the time. And it's either a success story, someone who's changed their life through the carnivore diet or ketogenic diet and overcome usually some chronic condition, such as PCOS or Crohn's or massive weight loss or even mental disorders, or it's an expert or doctor or researcher in the space. And I like to have a healthy balance of those 2 categories. And I put out 1 episode a week, and it's just really fun for me. It's a great way to stay connected to the community, great way to give back a little bit, and to showcase different people's stories. And one of my goals with the podcast has always been not to try to convert people to the carnivore diet or convince people that the carnivore diet is the best diet, but just to open up people's perspective a little bit and have them be willing to experiment and try something new if they haven't heard of the carnivore diet before. A lot of my listeners are people who have been doing the carnivore diet for a long time, and they want to, hear different perspectives and ways to tweak and optimize it, which is awesome. I love that stuff. And that's what a lot of my podcast is. But I also want, the random 60-year-old grandma who's been struggling with arthritis her whole life to get sent the podcast by a friend of someone else who has arthritis and had massive success with the carnivore diet. And they might say, hey, I'm willing, I'll give this a shot for 30 days, for 90 days. Yeah. And maybe it changes their life. That's all I'm hoping for. And so, yeah, hopefully I've had some of that impact.
Yeah, I'd say I think you have had some of that. And definitely your podcast was part of the reason I kind of opened my mind up to the thought of going to a more animal-based diet. And so I do thank you for that. And it was definitely something that we have to, I think, warm up to the idea of, like, as far as our current environment is today.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, there's just so much so much propaganda against it that it really does take that time and that exposure to see us. And the more places that we do, exposes people to it, I think the more people will come to accept it as a legitimate form of nutrition.
Yeah.
I will say, man, the last two podcasts, man, they were really good. I was going to tell you that. That's
oh, thank you.
I was really impressed. The one about the pets makes me so angry.
Yeah, it's tough.
It really is.
It's really scary too. And like, I get so mad at my parents because they send me all these studies like dogs should be fed vegan diets, and they're feeding their dog like kibble and vegan diets. And I love their dogs. So it's like they can't choose. Their poor dogs can't choose. Oh, I'm getting like upset just thinking
I know. I was gonna say, well, we have dogs, and like, yeah, my wife is totally, not with that whole thing, and like every time, because that's the thing is like, what can dogs eat? And like you look it up online, and man, it's like every single thing. They're like, this is they can't eat this, they can't eat that. They can only eat like the blandest foods, and like, they can eat like chicken breast, or like that's like and like give too much fat, and oh god, it's So what are your plans going forward with the podcast?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a full-time job. Carnivore Cast will never pay the bills, so to speak. So really it's more a side hobby. I spend 5 to 10 hours a week on it, and I'm very content with that. And I put out one episode a week. My goal is just to keep putting out one episode a week for as long as possible and have the quality remain high. Sure. And so far I've managed to do that for, over 4 years, which is how we got to 200 episodes. That's awesome. And, want to just continue that and have great guests and continue to expand a little bit, but stick true to the core and, my audience.
What's your full-time job?
So I work in corporate strategy and development for a technology company named Dutchie. And what they do is they provide point of sale and e-commerce software for cannabis dispensaries to run their business. So if you're a dispensary, you need a software to manage your menus, to have an online website, to check customers out when they're in the store. All of that needs to happen. And so my company has the software that most dispensaries in the US actually use. So yeah, if you've ever heard of like Square for retail, we're basically like Square for cannabis.
Oh, okay. So it's like specific to that industry.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. And I will say, I know it's like a couple episodes ago, I do listen to your podcast pretty consistently. You had some you were discussing your bodybuilding efforts. I was going to ask you how that's going.
Yeah. So I've been really into bodybuilding the last year or so. It's really fun for me. It's to me, I think initially a few years ago, it was about transforming my body and honestly not being comfortable with the way I looked and the amount of fat I had and how little muscle I had. I was not satisfied with my body, which is sad. But thankfully, I've gotten to the point, in the past couple of years where I feel really comfortable in my own body and feel great about the way I look. And it's less about that now, which is great. Now it's more like I just love seeing the progression, seeing the process of improvement and the feedback. So many things we do in our lives, in our jobs, it's very ambiguous. The feedback loops are not clear. You deliver a project at work, you work on it with 3 other people. It's not really clear what you did versus what they did. Maybe it gets implemented, maybe not. There isn't that immediate feedback of like, I went in the gym, I lifted more weight, or I can see the changes happening in the mirror, or I can see the scale moving. So that's really addicting to me. I was a competitive lightweight rower for 8 years. What I loved about it more than anything was the grind, being able to work really hard and see yourself get fitter and better and see your scores improve. So yeah, that's what I love about it. And, I'm really hooked on it right now. I put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm eating the meals all day long. I'm training, I'm trying to learn, I'm listening to podcasts about it. It's really fun for me.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome that you kind of fixed your body image issues. That's really important, because I think a lot of people get into space and they still don't, like, they still have those issues, that they're not, that they just see themselves as kind of not enough.
Yeah.
So that's good that you're coming from from that positive viewpoint. So I'd say that was a big reason why I got into it too. Like, it's just amazing to see the results so readily. And like I always tell the story that when I was young, like, my mother actually kind of spurred my love of fitness. And like, she, by coming to me when I was like 12, 13 years old, and asking if I would be her workout partner. And as an incentive, she offered me, like, I think it was a quarter or a dime, like, every time for every day that I did calisthenics with her. And like, I thought, like, I did it and I didn't really think anything of it. But then, like, I got into gym class like the first time that year, and got up to bat and got my pitch first time up and hit a home run over the right fielder's head. And like, I'd never been that good at like softball before, or baseball, and like, I was hooked from that point. Like, that was just because I was working at doing those workouts. That's what it brought. And then I was kind of hooked for years from that point, kind of, still I started a family. But
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
amazing.
cool. Thanks, man. Thanks. I was gonna say, how, like, what's your workout schedule? Do you, like, how many days a week, or are you doing, or
Yeah.
cardio?
Yeah, I go down to the gym 5 days a week right now. I have two rest days a week, on Thursdays and Sundays. And on my rest days, I do cardio on the treadmill, just like incline walking on the treadmill, get my heart rate up. But I may be cutting that out a little bit because I get so many steps in New York City.
Oh yeah.
Just living life, being,
Yeah.
having my dog, going around with my wife. My wife wants to explore endlessly on the weekends. So doing the treadmill walking on top of that is just like, it gets ridiculous. I get like over 20,000 steps some days. So I'm struggling with whether to keep doing the cardio or not. But 5 days a week, I'm down there, I'm in the gym. I do a lot of like prehab and rehab stuff. For a couple injuries I have. I found an amazing PT. I've always hated PT. Found it to be just complete vapor and like complete bullshit. But I actually found a PT that's incredibly intelligent and has helped me a lot with some back injuries and stuff. So I usually will go down early and do like 10 or 15 minutes of like prehab work before any weightlifting. And then, my sessions take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour or a little bit more. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Walk 12 to 15,000 steps a day and work out 5 days a week.
Yeah, it's pretty, that's quite a schedule, Yeah, that is the thing about like bodybuilding, is it does take a lot of like a lot of time and effort there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of why I definitely do a lot less than that now, but my goals are different. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a time consuming practice. So um anything else you want to talk about, Scott? Anything else you think got it going on, or want to direct people to?
Yeah. I guess one message I've been trying to harp on lately, for folks in and around this kind of way of eating, or this carnivore or ancestral lifestyle, is some of these concepts of carnivore, paleo, ancestral, like, it's not black or white, it's a spectrum, and everyone is on their own journey. So I think tribalism is very natural, but we should try to avoid being like certain other dietary groups who like try to banish people or say you're not doing it right. It's okay to help people, but let's not kick people out of the carnivore club or the ancestral club because they ate something. Let's try to include more people and help them, because otherwise we become an ideal that no one can live up to, and that's not how you change lives. So that's something that I think is really important, and for people to try to understand, like, the vast majority of people in this country and in the world are pretty sick metabolically, and even just getting them to eat a little bit more meat and a little bit less junk is a huge step in the right direction. So those people should not be kicked out of the carnivore club or ancestral club, for making small changes, because that's progress.
Thanks so much for bringing that up, because that's something I agree with wholeheartedly. That, and I think it's something that even we have to be careful, like our words that we do when we do give advice to people and stuff, that we come from that frame of mind, that we're just trying to help them get to the best health that they can, and in the way that's that they're gonna accept, and just help them in there. And it's all a journey. We're all figuring out what works for us. None of us know exactly like what the optimal diet is anyways, and and it's not even that important. Like you said, just making small improvements, it makes a big difference. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, hey Scott, it's been great talking to you, and I loved having you on the podcast. Maybe someday we'll do it again. And I'd just tell everyone to go please check out Scott's podcast, Carnivore Cast. It's great. He's got great guests, and does so much great for the health and fitness community.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aaron. It's been a pleasure being on, and I'm really excited for you and having this podcast, and I'm really grateful to have a chance to come on and speak with you.
Thanks, Scott. You take care. Be well.
Thanks. You too.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, that's I think
Great.
I think that was good. I'll see, I think I came out pretty well. I definitely appreciate you being on, and I'm trying to think. If like I said, if you're ever interested in having me on as a guest, if you ever need a guest, I'd be glad to be on.
Yeah.
I know you got plenty of plenty of people that you find, but I'd be honored if you did have me.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And if you wanted to, promote, if you want to use this, I'd be glad to send it to you. You can put it on yours or whatever you want to do with it. And I'll definitely send to you before I post it, to just make
Awesome.
sure you're good with it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much, Aaron. I'll share it on all my social media when it comes out. And thanks again for inviting me.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.